I'll call the roll and then Mr. Fry can read our Zoom instructions for our audience. Aldrich,
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Bigford,
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Helmrich,
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
Marcy,
Here, Township, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County.
and Osmond, Saugatuck City, Allegan County.
Zoom instructions tonight. Please say your name before speaking and before making a motion. Board members are required to state their location during the roll call, as you did. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. That's *6 if you're on the phone. Do not click unknown links that may be shared in the Zoom chat. The township does not disseminate information with this function. The meeting is being recorded. Please be respectful of those speaking and do not interrupt. If anyone is disruptive to the point of preventing the township board from conducting business, you'll get one warning before being removed from the meeting. If there is a problem with Zoom, the meeting will be reset utilizing the same meeting information. If the meeting is unable to continue, a notice will be issued on the township Facebook page and website. Reminder to board members that emailing or texting is not allowed during a public meeting. Please be patient as we're all learning the system. Thank you.
I think everybody had a chance to look at the agenda.
Mhm.
Are there any changes, comments, or deletions to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Bigford. I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there support?
I'll support. Marcy?
Any discussion? I'll go ahead and call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, motion carries. Next order of business is public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes if you're speaking for an individual, or 5 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of a group. This is not a question and answer session. It's a time to voice your thoughts with the township board.
Well, Cindy, if you'd like me to start, is that all right? This is Commissioner Kappinga. First, good seeing everyone tonight, and hope you have a good meeting. Some things that the county's dealing with tomorrow are we have our public hearing for our ORV ordinance, and that's been sent out to all the townships. We've had 16 of the 24 townships already tell us that they support this ordinance, and we've had, I think we had 150 people show up in support of it, something that we've never had at our facility, which was pretty surprising. We're also working on we have a water study workshop that we're picking people from. I think Al Meshkin from Laketown could be involved in it, but I've mentioned to you before that we did a water study knowing what the aquifer is in the county. And we're looking at ways to enhance that for the townships and cities. So we're gonna have this work group look at all the different pros and cons to what's there to recommend something for us as far as something that'd be beneficial for cities, townships, and the county. And I think that's gonna be a very powerful work group that will really be able to help you and the citizens of the county. Just also, we're working on a resolution. I don't know what you're doing with it. Ours expires at the end of this month. So there's a lot of people who are thinking that we should stop. Some people are saying, let's continue it because it helps us with our volunteers and so forth for emergency management. So I'm not sure where that will go. And simply, lastly, we've been asked to look at becoming a land bank. And you can, in the land bank from the state, they have the option to be used, but they're also, counties can become a land bank. And I heard the presentation on it. I don't know why we would not, but we're considering it, and I'll give you more information when I know more information. But that's a few things that are going on with us. We have construction at the courthouse. If you haven't seen that, we're changing where you come in to make it more accessible. But, Cindy, thank you for allowing me to speak, and I hope you have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Kapica.
Thank you.
Or is there anyone else in the public that would like to make a comment at this time?
Can you hear me?
I hear you, John. You have the
Okay,
floor.
yes. John Vanderbeek, 6419 Palmetto Court. I'd like to speak if I may. So I heard about this, a new friend of mine, Scott Stern, told me about the plans for the road construction for Dugout Road. And I just wanted to mention my concern about the development in the entire area that's coming over the next few years, over the next 10 years. I think it'll be very eye-opening for everybody in our community to realize that pretty much none of the woods around us is protected by really anything. And that we will see a substantial amount of trees being chopped down over the next, few years and decade. Yeah, go ahead. Who's talking?
Give me a call tomorrow if you can or whatever and tell me how it go.
Yep.
It went, okay?
Okay.
Someone needs to mute or we've been hacked.
Lori needs to mute, please. Thank you. You can finish up, John.
Okay, I wasn't sure if somebody was asking me or instructing me.
There's
There.
no questions in public comment, John.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. So anyway, what I'm saying is that I think that a lot of people are going to be shocked what's coming over the next 3 years and over the next 10 years with regard to tree removal. And we've all seen a lot of tree removal recently. And so what's going on at Dugout Road, it seems like there's a plan to take almost 100 trees out, which maybe 30% are perhaps old growth or a couple feet in diameter. And these are the so-called mother trees. If you're into ecology and forest health, the larger trees help all the smaller trees survive. They actually share sugars through a network of roots and fungal networks. And so the removal of just some roadside trees that might not seem like such a big deal to county can really affect all the trees as they go into the McEnroe Preserve, as they go into the side of the road, into these people's yards and stuff. So I would just, whatever we can do to try to save some of these trees when and if they decide to build Dugout Road properly. It's just, if you look at, say, the Dunegrass development out in the Presbyterian camps, they built their roads all the way to touching trees. And I know from speaking to David Barker that all the engineers told him that many of those trees had to be cut down. And yet he proved that they didn't need to be cut down. I think we could do the same here. I know it's out of control of the township. I think that was my beep. So I'm going to take an extra 10 seconds for the interruption. But anyway, I hope that the township can do something. Each tree is valued typically out there in real estate is $10,000 each. They definitely have a $2,000 replacement value. They're talking about taking out over 100 trees, or almost 100 trees rather. That's it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the comments. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to make a public comment at this time?
I would, please.
Lori, you have the floor.
Okay. I missed the very beginning, but I did want to say that tomorrow marks the beginning of the the Committee to Protect Our Rural Character. And I understand that there will be great emphasis on preserving the visual character as much as the commercial character. And with that in mind, I'd like to add my voice in support of Scott Stern's words, where he says, to what extent does the current Riverside Road Plan uphold the traditions that have helped make our state and country a leading example of responsible resource management and a highly regarded destination for visitors? If there is more that can be done, as Scott believes there is, to preserve our natural resources, we are obliged to try. And we have had extensive public comment on a variety of things, from swan population to single hauler garbage. And I just ask you to please not let this issue, which encompasses forever changes, I urge you not to let them go without proper input from the community. In addition, I have another statement that I would like to quickly read here. That in my letter to the board last month, I asked for your help with an ongoing problem, which I feel not only persists, but is escalating. Maybe with the very best of intentions, the manager feels that his being in control is more efficient, but one person can't do all the work that we as a group were elected to do. And the Parks Commission is essentially in a stalled position. One of the first of these responsibilities removed was once provided by Chairman Searing, which was to set the agenda. And now they have a meeting before each meeting and the manager has final say over the agenda, thus controlling what we talk about. Next, he took over writing and presenting the commission report to the board. So now he controls what the board sees and hears. This is especially problematic when we commissioners rejected the plan to brush hog around the entrance to the dog park. It was unanimously voted down, but in his report, Manager Fry said it was temporarily delayed. The minutes only state that a cost for brush hogging has been obtained. At the last meeting, Monday, June 8th, the manager announced that he was doing the minutes. So now he controls not only what we talk about, what the board hears, but also what the records show. Also, instead of leaving this to the commissioners, the township manager is using the costly services of an attorney to write our bylaws, which can't be a good use of our limited resources. Therefore, I'm asking again, please, that the board intervene and have a conversation with the manager, the commissioners, and someone from the board so that we can all work together instead of working at cross purposes.
About
Thank
20
you.
more seconds.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a public comment at this time?
Hi, John Doerr, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi,
You have
John
the floor.
Doerr, 3468 Riverside Drive. I would ask that the township board would allow for a public hearing regarding the Riverside and Dugout Road project, as was discussed at the December 2019 board meeting. As board member Osmond has pointed out, the public comment does not allow for any questions or answers or any sort of feedback to the public. It's just merely to state something. Once the trees are gone, they can't be put back. It seems like they would be prudent to have a meeting before that happens. So again, I would ask that the township consider having a public hearing regarding the Riverside Dugout Road project. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time? I'm not seeing anybody. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment to the public or a public comment at this time? Last call. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is our next item to talk about. Has everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda? Those are usually items that are routine and can be handled in one single motion.
Yes.
No questions, so I would entertain a motion.
This is Aldrich. I move to approve the consent agenda.
There's support for that?
I'll support Helmrich.
Any further discussion? If not, I will call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, motion carries. So time for our public hearing on the budget. I was going to let Mr. Fry cue that up for us.
Public hearing is a time for the public to give comment, similar to the public comment part for the budget hearing. So if there's anyone that has a comment, you can speak now, and the chair can then recognize you for comment, period.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing for comments on the budget. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the budget? Is there any questions from the board?
Ms. Gosshorn has her hand up.
That's her raised hand. Lori, did you want to speak?
That was for public comments. I apologize. I just lowered it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on the budget?
I guess I will, Treasurer Helmrich here. And I think I've discussed this with each of you, and I'm not questioning this issue, but I do want to pinpoint something that I think is really important. And I've talked a lot to Manager Fry about this. One of the potential things we were going to add to the budget that didn't make it was putting in maybe $25,000 to $30,000 for some part-time code enforcement support. And I just want to suggest that we kind of commit ourselves to addressing this further by the end of the first quarter of the new fiscal year. This is becoming more and more of an issue. It's wearing down our zoning administrator, Lene Wells. I mean, her job is not to go out to these people's homes, but she's been doing that. And I can attest to the fact, being in the office every day, that more and more of these things are going to come up as people move into our community and don't want to live next to 4 or 5 abandoned vehicles. Or the woman who came in yesterday who lives next to her home where there's a pit bull running wild, and the gentleman who lives in the house plays his drums at 4:30 in the morning. So to preserve our quality of life, I'm hoping we do what we can. And I know Manager Fry has some ideas too. And I just want to bring that up because that's something that didn't make it in, but I think we can address that hopefully in the near future with budget amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Anyone on the board or in the public?
This is Bigford. I just want to say I support what Treasurer Helmrich said, and I think we just need to begin that conversation at the very least.
This is Aldrich. I completely agree too. I think it's really important that people know that they have an avenue if they're having problems that they can get some help. So I hope we can do this soon.
Thank you, Stacy. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time on the budget? Last chance. I'm not seeing anybody's hand up, and I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand. So we can close the public hearing for the budget. Mr. Fry, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, not at this time.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
For what?
I don't know. I don't have my packet.
The
I don't see it.
budget adoption is an item listed later on the agenda. So
Okay, thank you. So that was the public hearing. Do we need it on? No, we'll do that at the next one, I guess. Okay. Let me get to my pages here. The next item is unfinished business. Citizen request for a pond update. Mr. Fry, I think, has put together a lot of good information about that. If you'd like to just touch on the highlights.
Can you see that one more time, Cindy? I didn't catch that.
A citizen request for the pond updates, and Mr. Fry put together quite a bit of good information on that. So maybe he could just touch on the highlights for us.
So as the board requested for comments from the zoning administrator and attorney, we all met and put this timeline together to kind of go over so that the board has information on the pond at 135th and 66th Street. So in 2018, the township signed off on almost a 5-acre pond and almost a 2.5-acre pond. Over between 2018 and 2020, Mr. Van Horn came to the township requesting a removal of sand from mineral extraction, and zoning administrator Wells told him that he had to get a special approval use for that. he went through that process and did obtain that in the spring of 2020, along with several conditions for a 10-acre pond per the site plan that was dated, and that superseded the 2 previous permits that were issued. In the timeline, it states different things. When the reclamation bond was dropped off the township, and different calls that residents had made, different timing for when the Eagle was updated and sent permits. As you know, on the timeline in October 6th of 2020, our zoning administrator contacted Van Horn and Eagle about the size of the pond, and it was determined the pond was 5 acres or less. And at the end of the month, we put in a stop work order due to the not having permits for mineral movement off the site, and that is still into effect today. Over the last year or two, we have been working with the county and state to keep them up to date and keep ourselves up to date on what is going on. Both the state and county have issued the soil erosion permit at the county level. We did notify that one to the county when we were taught. Someone made a comment that sand was blowing around, so we verified with the county and the soil erosion permit. That is what the SESC stands for in the timeline. That's soil erosion. That was out of date, and Mr. Van Horn is working on getting that up to date at this time. I did call Eagle today to get an update on what's going on. So the violation notice that was sent in the spring was a request for information and didn't have any fees or fines attached to it. And the permit, let me get the number right, for part 301, when I talked to the Eagle representative, he said that Mr. Van Horn had retracted that application, and that permit is for the pond over the 5-acre pond requirement. And he has pulled that back and will be resubmitting it as they are working on the application process. And it should be expediting the other permit. And let me get the other permit, which is part 637, which is to remove the sand from the property. Currently, we have a work stop order that prevents the sand from leaving. Currently, that is in the process of being obtained, so that large mountain can then be removed so the wind doesn't blow up that loose sand. So that is the update. At this time, Mr. Van Horn does have that 3-year time frame to complete the project and obtain necessary timelines. We just finished year 1. So at this time, from talking to our attorney and zoning administrator, we are recommending that we wait before we take any action at this time. And we will update you once we hear anything more from the state. I did talk to the state about getting on their list to get updates from them more routinely, as that has been an issue that we have not been. And I did ask them about that, and they said that is not their standing operating procedure to notify the local municipality on permits. It's between the state permit applicant and themselves. So I did ask to get more information as things move along so that we are up to date on when things are moving. So.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. That was a nice report. And I'm going to keep you on the spot with our next item. You've also put together a lot of good information about what we've done at Dugout Road.
Madam Supervisor? Yeah. Can I comment on the pond issue, please?
Yes, John, you have the floor.
Yeah, I know we don't have take any action, but I want to say a few things. I want to start by really thanking and commending Manager Fry for digging into this. We know he's relatively new to our team, so there was a lot of background check and work he had to do with the zoning administrator. Last month, we asked that the zoning administrator and council provide an update to us. I've been assured that our council, Mr. Curcio, was very involved with crafting this, and I appreciate all the effort from, as I said, from Mr. Fry and also Ms. Wells, who is fortunately for her on vacation this week. But I do want to make a few comments relative to this issue, because this is one of two major planning commission type things that this board inherited from a previous board. The original pond approval was issued by a former zoning administrator in October of 2018, 2 weeks before the election that brought us into office. And we're trying to rectify some things. It's noted in the timeline, but we do know that both Eagle, the state department, and the Allegan County have issued, I think now, a total of 3 violation notices to Mr. Van Horn. And in reading through this, I know a few times he's mentioned that the pond size and the water depth was due to uncommonly high water levels in our township. Well, that was true a year ago. Right now, water levels, the lake is down over a foot, and that just is sort of specious. And I know other people have pointed out things that they think have been said in applications and by Mr. Van Horn that perhaps are not true. So I just want us to bear that in mind. I'm not requesting any kind of action today. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, because I shared this with you guys. I had never seen this document before. I don't know if it ever was sent to the township prior to today, but there were comments submitted by Michigan State University hydrologist Anthony Kendall, PhD. I kind of perused it today. It's kind of over my head scientifically, but it does beg the question about the hydrological impact if this pond, which I believe, originally was approved to be what, 5 or 4.9? Yeah, let's see, 4.9 acres. Then it was verified to be 6.7, and now it might be up to 10. There is concern of its impact on other properties surrounding it in terms of hydrological issues and water. We've been told that the water table has actually shrunk in some of the adjoining properties, and I think we need to bear that in mind. The other point relative to that is, in fact, I asked this at a meeting earlier this week. I'm just curious, as a citizen, let alone a board member, how is the pond filled? Where does the water come from? Are they tapping into wells or the aquifer? Are they just running a hose from their own well and filling it? It's down very much right now, as a lot of water levels are, including behind my home in Gosshorn Creek, record lows. So again, I'm bringing this up. I want us to keep this in mind. I want the Planning Commission to keep this in mind. And again, I thank very much the zoning administrator and the manager for all this hard work. And I hope my colleagues will, you take a stab at reading Dr. Kendall's document, and maybe you can help me understand it better, but I don't want us to ignore it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I did get an opportunity to look at that report. It looks like maybe it was submitted to Eagle as part of the comments, but it's not very clear. It's a very convincing report, and I don't know if it will have any impact on what's going on and maybe why he withdrew his application, and Eagle's looking for more information. But yeah, is there any other questions about the pond?
This is Bigford. I'd like to make just a quick comment.
Thank you, Abby. You have the floor.
I don't want to repeat too much of what John said, but I do thank the team for putting together this timeline. I think hopefully it will be really helpful to the public to be able to view the full history of how this all played out. And I think I can speak for most of the board. I'm kind of had some different conversations here and there that we do, we have a lot of empathy for the neighbors and some people that have concerns about it. And it's, these decisions were made before that we were in office, and we're doing our best to kind of shore up some of these, to prevent these types of things from happening again.
Thank you, Abby. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Last chance. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which Mr. Fry has again put together some great information about the process that we are making on the Dugout Road. This has been in process for a long time, and Allegan County has really done a great job of contacting the property owners. So
No.
no comments till I give you the floor, please.
So,
Joe, would you like to give the highlights of this? We don't need every single detail, but
Madam Chair, Mr. Stearns did ask to give a
Oh,
short
that's right.
presentation before we go into it. I mean, he's on right now, so is the chair, is that all right with you, the board?
thank you, Mr. Fry. I'm having a little bit of trouble following along because I'm not seeing your shared screen.
Oh,
But let's go ahead with the presentation from Mr. Stern. 15 minutes.
all right. Scott, are you on? All right, there we go. You're muted, Scott.
Trying to juggle everything here. How's that? Can you hear and see me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And Joe, I understand we're going to be able to share the screen here.
We should, I just have to get it over here real quick. Figure out how to share it with you.
Okay.
If anything, I do have it as you sent it to me. Okay. So Scott, at the bottom of your screen, you should see the little button that says share.
Yep, I'm ready to do it. Let me give it a shot here.
All right.
I think to start with, you're just maybe going to see a desktop, or can you see my desktop, guys?
Yeah.
You see clouds?
All right. And then you should now be able to see the beginning of the
Yeah.
presentation.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Well, a lot of you already know, but I'm Scott Stearns, third generation Riverside Heights native living at 3462 Riverside Drive. And I want to thank the Township Board for giving me the opportunity to speak to our gathering. And also thank all who are working on behalf of this place that we revere so much. There's a lot of great activity and involvement going on. So if you would indulge me, I'd like to open with a benedictory tribute that's adapted from the Gun Lake Tribe mission and also from the Athenian Ephebic Oath. So let us maintain our elders' vision, integrity, spirituality, culture, and economic self-sufficiency by protecting our sovereignty, traditions, land, and natural resources for our future generations. Let us strive for the ideals and the sacred things of the township, both alone and with many. Let us seek to quicken the sense of public duty. May we transmit this township not only not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. We're grateful to our Creator for this moment of coming together and the blessings of freedom. And we venerate the three treasures: teachers, the wild, and friends. Now, my family's home is on Riverside Drive. It was built in 1962 by my grandfather. That's it on the left in late summer. And my grandfather was among the first students at Oxbow, and he lived at this place and continued to paint land and waterscapes in and around Riverside Heights until he passed away in 1969. And I've watched Riverside Heights cling to its wild nature through the years, and sadly, I've seen some of it slip away as well. I believe, I mean, just to frame this, I believe that the natural world has intrinsic value worth protecting, and that human activities can cause irreparable harm to our ecological systems if we're not careful. So my purpose tonight is to share my hopes and concerns for this natural and still slightly wild place as we work together to give a better road to those who want it, but find it in our conscience to do so without sacrificing things that, once gone, will not soon, if ever, come back. Now, I'm going to start from a little bit broader context and then work back into Riverside Heights. So we are surrounded here in Allegan County, we're fortunate to be so, by some really strong examples of leadership and achievement in the preservation and cultivation of landscapes. Some of you might have seen something I sent out over the weekend, but back in 1960, Mr. and Mrs. Marshall Simons and Mrs. William Walker sought and received the help of Michigan's governor and highway commissioner to reroute I-196 in order to protect a valuable tract of land at Pier Cove. Now that property is still there today, and that's one thing we can look to as a legacy to follow. Now, the city of Saugatuck gives us some examples where extra care has been taken with public works to maintain the local charm by preserving the town's arboreal assets. Such a graceful symbiosis is uncommon today, and it's a feature of our community's ethos, not a bug. Then we have the Art Coast. It's not only or primarily about pictures and frames, but about what draws people and how the place inspires us and sustains us. It's about landscape and memory. This Saugatuck Cottonwood is pretty close to the road, probably less than a foot. Should this be removed? It's probably not conformant. Lucy Street has no sidewalks. Again, an adaptation or an allowance for the nature or the feel of who we are. And I think it conveys a really powerful message that way. And so if we turn the corner here, we turn around and go to our right and follow Holland Street north a short distance to 66th, we find the 140-year-old McEnroe farmhouse on the southwest corner. Now, I don't have a picture of this available right now, but this farmhouse is bounded on the north and the east by 26 acres of picturesque mixed growth forest and pasture and wetland that were once part of the holdings for the House family's thriving orchard and fruit business. And this brings us to a generous and selfless act, another example we can look toward, that secured the natural integrity of some of the land that stands to be impacted by the current road project. So in 2008, Paul McEnroe, working with the Land Conservancy of West Michigan, placed his family property into a conservation easement. At that time, Paul said, putting the woods, wetland, and open grassland into a conservation easement for perpetuity seemed to be the most natural way to honor the legacy of my ancestors' land stewardship, acknowledge the incredible dedication of the people around Saugatuck, who are now fighting to preserve the unique dunes environment. He wrote this in 2009, and a way to teach those who come after us about the importance of preservation and the ethic of giving back to the community. So to me, these examples underscore a couple of things. That's O.C. Simons on the left there with Joy Morton, who built the Morton Arboretum in Chicago. But the first thing is we have a well-founded tradition of going the extra distance to respect the natural character we are blessed to care for. And it suggests to me that the current efforts to avoid harming Riverside Heights are undergirded by this lineage of stewardship, which I think is something that we should also preserve. Now, second, it's important to keep a holistic perspective as we go through our deliberations tonight. What we keep referring to, and we have to have a handle for it, but we keep referring to it as a road improvement or road reconstruction, which it most certainly is. But let's just continue to remember that it will have consequences far beyond the road and the vehicles that travel it. So the McEnroe easement borders on the construction zone, so it fronts parts of Riverside and Dugout as well as 66th Street. And it also, as you see on the pictures here, the picture here, it opens out onto the river. It has river frontage. And together, the conservation easement and the Riverside Heights subdivision comprise part of a larger historic river mouth complex that works together with Talmadge Woods and Oxbow and Saugatuck Dunes Natural Area and the Old Harbor and the river mouth. So they're all part of one. Now, old growth forest was never cleared for orchard production because of the terrain. So along Riverside, there remains intact a number of old growth, and this acts as an extension of the McEnroe easement. And then by the proximity that we have to Talmadge Woods across the river, these plots form a continuous habitat that supports a rich diversity of wildlife. So we can have birds and insects and deer in the wintertime when the river's frozen, migrating back and forth across the river so that you have continuity from the lakeshore all the way east to 66th Street. Now, we've recently seen with the Van Horn development, which we already heard about some more tonight, that more and more nearby habitat is being lost. It's being eradicated at the margins and in patches, and while none is being meaningfully replaced. So our area's ecosystem is under growing duress. So let's look at the construction plan and get a sense of how it will impact this relatively undisturbed landscape.
You have about 5 more minutes, Mr.
Okay,
Stone.
thank you. I'll blast through this then so I don't get cut off. The case has been presented for widening the narrow old roads, which are 13 feet in some places, so that they will have a uniform width of 18 feet. And though a number of residents wish it otherwise, no one is protesting the widening, grading, or application of compacted millings. But in most places along these roads, we believe 18 feet ought to be enough. So I've walked this road the last week and measured it, and there isn't currently any point where the distance between any 2 trees or utility poles that are on opposite sides of the road is less than 20 feet. We have 20 feet already between trees. We just don't have a uniform grade across the full width. Now, unfortunately, the construction plan goes beyond establishing an 18-foot road by adding 6 foot of clear cutting on each side for a total cleared width of 30 feet. Now, a number of residents are deeply concerned about the harm this would inflict, and allowing some carefully targeted improvements in select places to improve passage is one thing, but 30 feet of clearing throughout would be decimated. Now, if we look at the drawings for Riverside, they're a little tricky. The density of markings and symbols makes it hard to interpret. So here I've added green dots to show the trees that are being targeted for removal. If we expand these dots to represent the trees' canopies, we get to here. And it shows how 30 feet of clearing at the ground level will produce a 50 to 70 foot opening in the overstory. Now, along Riverside, there's 59 mature living tree specimens that are marked for destruction. And quite a few are large heirloom anchor trees. Some are as old as 80 to 120 years or more. Each road is different, but the impacts along Dugout will be similar. And we need to ask ourselves, how many of these trees are within the 18-foot width of the planned roadway? And I want to stop just for a second and point out too that when we look at this plan that you just saw, this one here, back here, what we've got right now, this is from my house at the end all the way to the 8th house up. We have, as you can see here, 63% who do not want extensive clearing or any clearing beyond the edges of the 18-foot road. So we've got 12 trees that are inside the 18-foot area designated for the upgraded road. That leaves 47 trees that are marked for clearing that are not in the road, and 18 of these are marked for removal, even though they're more than 15 feet from the center line. In other words, they're outside the plan zone clearing limit. There's no chance tree removal at this scale would not adversely affect the integrity of the habitat and the character of the landscape. So such wholesale tree removal is neither necessary nor justified. And given the true long-term cost, I fear that if it occurs, it will ultimately come to be seen as a grave error in judgment. So may we transmit this township not only not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. Now, there are some legal factors around this too, and I'll kind of go through them here, and I've consulted with an attorney to make sure I'm correct, but the road commission is not legally required to remove trees for 6 feet on either side. The county does not legally have to remove any trees outside the road. It is not liable if a car veers off the road and hits a tree. Under the law, it's liable only for things within the traveled portion of the right of way.
One more minute, please.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not nearly finished, but I'll keep going. Okay. Despite this, road conditions are known for declaring that trees outside the road should be taken down for safety reasons. But how does safety apply here, and how much clearing is indicated? I've got a little bit more, but let me just, I guess since I have a minute, if you were to give me an extra 2 minutes, I could wrap it all up. But if you don't want to do, would you be willing to do that? Or I'm real close, Supervisor Osmond.
Okay,
but,
speak quickly.
Okay, I'm just going to go real quickly. And so
Amen.
We're back on the legal question. So there's always safety issues that are raised. So that's what they say why they're clearing outside of the roadway. But historically, our roads here have not been unsafe. Riverside Drive in particular is a low-speed road with no through traffic. It serves only 15 single-family households. The circumstances don't demonstrate a need for a 6-foot margin on each side. Over many years on Riverside, I don't know of problems with cars hitting trees. I'm sure a check of public records will bear that out. So what problem are we solving with indiscriminate clearing? Enabling large vehicle access is important, and we want to do that. But fire and garbage trucks are typically 8 to 9 feet wide. If we add an extra 2 feet to allow for side mirrors, we arrive at 10 to 11 foot for clearance. With an 18-foot wide roadway, that amounts to a 7 to 8 foot margin for passage, which is 3 to 4 feet on each side. Now, we do have questions about choke points and pinch points, and this is a narrow section. So real quickly on that, to be sure, if a road bends too much or too tightly, maneuvering a long truck through there can present challenges, but why not address any constrictions as individual cases? A responsible plan will account for the fact that some of the potentially affected trees are over 100 years old, still healthy, highly adapted to their surroundings, and supporting literally hundreds of other life forms. It will recognize that without these, the ecosystem suffers and the unique feel of the neighborhood is sacrificed. So what we need is a conscientious effort to balance competing interests that can find solutions to reduce the extent of tree clearing. I'm going to skip over a section that's very interesting, and I'm going to do one little quick thing here, which is just that if you look at this tree here, it's a 36-inch oak, probably 120 years old. You can see it's highly adapted. Now, what's interesting about this oak is that if you look at it from a slightly different angle, there's your oak on the right, there's your utility pole on the left. They are going to take down this oak, they're not going to take down the utility pole. That seems to me very strange. How is it that an oak can be destroyed while a utility pole beside it, equally close to the road, stays in place? Now, this is true.
Okay, if you could conclude, bring it up, wind it up.
Wrapping it up right now. This road project is atypical to say the least. It represents a defining moment for preserving Riverside Heights and securing the well-being of the surrounding natural and cultural spaces. So let's approach this reconstruction cautiously. I hope we can recognize that in light of its shortcomings, the plan currently before us for approval fails to address critical issues and does not adequately value sustainability. Stepping back further to improve it is a better choice. It's one that doesn't have to mean setting aside aspirations for a rebuilt road or even preventing work from taking place this season. So as a community, let's affirm that we can and will do better, rise to higher standards, that we are capable of achieving road improvement that avoids destroying anchor trees and hurting the character of a historically significant place. Let's honor Paul McEnroe. Let's follow the example of Governor Williams, John Mackey, and OC and Marshall Simons. Let's continue to reflect the best values and aspirations of our own township, our county, and the people who live and work here. Let's keep the magic alive, the biome healthy, and let's be good ancestors. And thank you very much. I didn't
Thank
even
you,
get to
Mr.
mention.
Stearns. That was quite a presentation. I appreciate all the time and work that went into it, and I thank you for bringing it back to our attention.
Thank
I think
you.
that
I'll turn off screen sharing here. Give me just a second. Zoom here. There we go. Okay, hang on. I had some boxes pop up when I was doing the presentation. That
All right, we're back to normal.
there we go. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
okay, I think that we also have a report from Mr. Fry, whose screen share I could now see. A little bit of history, a little bit of things that the township and the Allegan County did complete. So, Mr. Fry, if you could just give us the highlights. You're muted.
There we go. Is that better?
Much better.
Oops. Good thing I didn't get too far ahead of myself. So as this project started prior to me joining the township, I had to do some calling and looking back in the minutes. In your packet, you will see that there's attachments from December of 2019, where the township board did approve the 2020 and 2021 road projects, which then get sent to the county to start the engineering work. Again, that was voted on in April of 2020 and was approved to move forward. There was a number of questions that we had. The county does send for standard operating procedure of road projects within the county. Once the township board sends them the work order, they begin the engineering process. And one of the steps is to send out a letter to all the property owners detailing what is going on in the project and giving them a contact person who is the county engineer. That was sent out in March 26, 2020. This project was scheduled to be completed in 2020, but the county was working with residents and trying to address the concerns that were made at the time when I talked to them, because traditionally all trees are cut when a road project like this occurs, but only a third of the trees would be taken in this. At the time when the letter was sent out, between 6 to 7 out of the 23 property owners commented, and when I talked to the engineer, they were the majority of the questions were general or asking general questions for the project, or asking about keeping some of the trees. The bid documents went out April 8th of 2021, and the ad went out in the paper the following week as per the standard procedures. I did ask Mr. Edwards a number of questions, which me and Trustee Marcy talked about, because we wanted further information on this, and those are included in your packet. The county has went over its traditional engineering costs, which range between 6 to 10% of the total construction estimate. They're currently at 17%, which means they have more time and cost in this project than traditional projects within the county. Also in your packet, you will see, as Mr. Stearns pointed out, the engineering drawings, which they typically do not include in the packet that they put out for bid, was included for when I talked to them for transparency to show more of what's going on here. On the drawings, you will see the number of trees and like light poles or electric boxes. The ones in bold are the ones that are proposed to be removed. So also in your packet is, as I mentioned, the minutes, the adopted road plan for 2020 and 2021, as well as the work order and the bid sheet that came back. And the county is recommending to go with the lowest bidder for the $162,955. So, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. That was a very good summary of what's going on there. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Fry? Mr. Helmrich, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Fry, when you refer to this revised plan from the county as taking out a third of the trees originally proposed, does that 1/3 figure equate to the 59 trees stated by Mr. Stearns? Do you know?
So there was, when I hand counted it, I didn't ask for the number from the county, but when I did hand count the trees, it was, in upwards of 300 trees, and 100 trees would be taken out plus or minus. So when the engineer said that, it was a third, I had the same thing before I called them.
So more or less, there are 200 trees that would not be affected from the original plan. Is that what you think? Or?
Well, this is the plan that came out from the original plan. Normally and traditionally, the county, when I talked to the engineer, takes out all the trees within the right of way.
Right.
They chose not to and only are doing a third to try to limit the impact to the environment around them. As that was a comment in December of 2019, I believe one of the board requests.
And is that something, with hard numbers that would say the number to be removed versus the number to remain, that will that be put in writing? Is that something we can make a condition so we can see if that's what happened? Because if they take out more when it's over, it's too late. We've lost our opportunity.
What I can't for certain say how many trees at the end of the project, but if you do move forward on it, you can put the caveat to protect as many trees as possible and to continue to work during construction to limit the number of trees to, bring it from the 100 plus or minus down as much as possible.
Thank you. Is Mr. Stearns still with us?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I don't see him.
Would you like me to speak?
No, I want to
No.
talk to you. You've already spoken, sir.
Oh, okay.
No, first of all, I want to thank you for the time, and obviously a lot of effort went into this. It was, beautifully and well-crafted presentation. I'd like to ask whether it's you or Mr. Fry, I think it'd be helpful maybe tomorrow to share the slide presentation with each of us, since we didn't get to see all of it and we might want to review it. So that would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
I have two questions for you. You mentioned in one of your letters that you'd met with an attorney that's worked on this kind of tree projects in other municipalities and had an alternative plan. Is that something that's ever been shared with the Allegan County Road Commission?
I don't believe so. I've been playing catch up for the last month on this because I didn't realize they were about to, publish their final plan. And that all happened between April 8th and April 28th. And we didn't find out until that last meeting a month ago, or I didn't. So I haven't had a chance to do everything I'd like to do, but the answer is it hasn't been shared, but it certainly could be. And there's much more information. One thing with this right of way is we have to be very specific when they have gone and established a highway by use, which they can do legally. But once you establish a highway by use, which effectively says the road is where the road's been used, then a platted right of way no longer applies, and they have a 66-foot wide right of way legally.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. The public comments are over.
Okay, I was just trying to answer questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see Miss Marcy has her
longer.
hand raised.
All right, can I finish my question, please?
Yes.
Just, I would encourage you to share that with Jason and maybe even send it to some of us so we can see it.
Okay,
Thank you, Scott.
sure, thank you.
I see Miss Marcy has her hand raised. Brenda, you have the floor.
Thank you. All right, so one of the questions I have, I don't know if it's for Joe or if it's for Chief Janik. The 6 feet on each side, I was out on that property and I didn't realize that was going to happen as well. Is that a fire issue or is that a county issue? Code, rule, whatever it is.
I'm Brenda.
Yes.
What did you say, 66 feet?
No, 6 on each side. Scott Stern mentioned that.
So traditionally there's a little bit of a gap on each side of the road, and it can change on the size of the road about how much for space on either side. But to accurately ask the question, I would have to ask the engineers at the road commission, as they focus more on the road requirements that are set by the state and county. But unless Chief has a comment on it.
And
I have another question after that, but go.
Okay. The road commission has the right to take out all the trees in the right of way without consulting with anyone. That is their right to do that. And they do that as standard practice. In this case, they've made an effort to reduce the number of trees that will be removed. And I guess, Greg, could you answer any questions about what fire access would be?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. We are as sensitive of the elements and trees and what they do as anyone else. We understand what can happen, and we work with property owners to try to come to some sort of a balance. So to get right to the point, if we had 20 feet of clear road width, we can't zigzag around trees. That's completely unrealistic. Do we need 33 feet? No. If you gave us 20 feet of clear road width, there's no water supply there. You're gonna have a lot of trucks going side by side. Our average truck is 9 foot 8 inches wide. So to go side by side to pass each other, we've got to have enough clearance. That gives us just enough room if we had 20 feet. So we're not looking to land a plane down there. We completely respect it. We went through this when 62nd Street and 131st were reconfigured. This seems more like a resurfacing job, and then trying to achieve a balance of having some reasonable amount of road width without cannibalizing, the terrain. So we have not been that involved with this project. So I'm kind of coming into this blindsided. I know at the end of cul-de-sac, we don't like cul-de-sacs. If we just have a 3-point turn, we can make things work. But to answer the question, Brenda, if we had 20 foot of clear road width, we just need to be able to get trucks side by side, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you, Greg. That was really helpful. Brenda, you have another question?
Yeah, just one more. I had asked Joe to ask a couple more questions. And I think you all know I'm a tree hugger. And Scott, I think you were out there when I came out to visit. I do have a question though. This all started quite a while ago. 18, Joe? Correct?
19.
Pardon me?
2019.
Okay, 2019. Anyway, one of the questions I asked Joe to ask was, how many residents contacted Craig? And he said maybe 6 to 7, and there's 13 houses?
23 property owners.
Pardon me?
23 property owners.
Okay, so I don't know if it snuck up on them, but we have been dealing with this for quite a while. So I just wondered how many had actually taken the steps, how many are for it, how many against it, and I think we know that. But so I do understand that the county has already spent quite a bit of money to begin this project. So, and thank you, Greg. That's really good to know. Because I had not thought to ask that question before. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Brenda. I see Mr. John has his hand raised, but this public comment is closed at this time. Is there any other board members that have questions or concerns they'd like to speak on?
Chair, can I
Mr.
make
Helmrich, you
one
have the
comment?
floor. Yes, please.
Hi, Joe.
Just one comment. I just want to make sure it's clear for the public and the board that this project does not include paving. It is asphalt millings. So it's ground up asphalt that would be put on.
No shit.
But I just wanted to make sure that was clear, as I had gotten a phone call from a resident that had some questions about that. And I just want to make sure that's clear for the public.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or comments or discussion by the board? Mr. Helmrich?
Yes, thank you. Just two. One, the timing, yes, we've been discussing this for a while, but I think this is one of those things that, requires as much possible time as possible, because we are talking about lots of trees and old trees and, pretty sacred resources. Someone mentioned earlier, tomorrow afternoon will be the first meeting of the Planning Commission Special Committee on Rural Character and Conservation. And I'm happy to serve on that. The chair is Daniel DeFranco. And I know that it's already come up, but I'm pretty certain that one of the priorities that will come out of this subcommittee as we review our ordinances and how they fit with the master plan is to suggest a stronger tree ordinance for the township. The one we have is quite weak, and I know that that's going to be a big issue for this committee. And again, I think this timing is sort of interesting. And secondly, I was going to ask this question. I just want to throw it out there, and I didn't get a chance. I should have reached out to the Land Conservancy of West Michigan. I'd like to know more about the impact of this project, whether it's the size it is now, smaller, or the original plan, the impact on the McEnroe nature easement. We heard a bit about that in the slide presentation, and I think some of the family members have expressed an issue, concern to talk to us. And that's it. I don't know how many trees or how much footage involved here is actually in the McEnroe easement. And I think that's important to know. This was a gift from a person who's deceased, and I'd like us to be able to honor that to the extent we can. And again, I apologize that I don't know more about it at this point. I said this last month, but I would personally like more time to get some of these questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there any more questions or comments from the board? Not seeing any hands raised. So if I go back to the action on this item, I think we've done quite a bit to preserve as many trees as we can. I'm looking at the rehabilitation project on page 45 of the packet. A lot of the trees that are to be removed are dead trees. And there's a lot of trees that are not being removed that are in not bolded numbers. So I didn't count them, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of them unnecessarily being removed. And as Joe said, we could put a caveat on the motion that the road commission actively preserve as many live trees as possible. So if there's anyone that would like to make a motion so we can start.
Helmrich here. I'm going to take a stab at this. Thank you for listening. I actually would like to move that we table this vote for one more month to gather more information. So if we do put caveats on, we can be more specific in the numbers and gather more information, as I said, on the impact to the McEnroe easement and other such concerns. And I'd be fully committed to helping get that information and having a vote next month. Thank you.
Is there any support for that motion to table the motion, to table the action to the following month? I think there's some interesting problems with that, but is there support for that motion?
Cindy, could you tell me what you think the problems would be to table that? I mean,
it's mostly timing issues and the money that's already been spent by the road commission and the time that they've spent on it. I look at the documentation that Mr. Fry put together, and I think it's really quite adequate, showing that they did mail letters, they did contact the property owners, they spent time in the field with the easement, the land acquisition easement people. And I don't think we need to have a road that doesn't meet the needs of the fire department. The property owners that live there have very nice, expensive homes, and they need fire protection just as the rest of us do. So that would be my issue. I don't know if Joe wants to add anything about the timing, but that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. If it's going to be done, it's going to protect the property there and the lives and safety of people that live there. I think we need to we'll move to approve it, and a caveat that they preserve as many trees as possible. So I think we have a motion, and I'm looking for support for the motion moved by.
I'd just like to add, if I may, I mean, 1 month is not that much time, and there have been some comments on chat that I think are worth pursuing relative to if some of the things that we've said earlier were actually on Riverside Road or on Dugout Road. I mean, it's a very complicated project, and it's difficult for all of us, and I'll put myself at the top of the list, to follow and sort out. So I'm just asking forbearance for 1 more month, please.
Is there support? Oh, Brenda, do you have a question before?
Yes. Joe, how would it complicate things in terms of moving forward if we table it 2 weeks for a special meeting? And I know we're going to have lots of special meetings, but I'm looking for a compromise here. And I don't know what could possibly be accomplished, but what in terms of the road commission, what would happen? Do you know?
So the road commission, as it is getting closer to the middle of construction season, the further it's tabled, the more likely that this will get pushed to next fiscal year and to the next construction season. So next for 22, not 21. But you guys can schedule a public meeting, a special meeting for this. I would just want very clear what direction that you want from staff and for me to reach out to the county for this. Yeah, that's what I'd have to say at this time.
That's fair. That makes sense.
All right, John, if you will, I hate to add this work. If you will amend the motion, that would be great. And maybe we could do something where the county comes in and talks, any of the residents, and we can make a decision right there, then and there. I hate to slow it down, but I've listened to what everyone has to say. So if you want to amend your motion, I will second it.
Okay. No, and I agree, because, for example, I've never met Jason from the road
They're
commission.
both great. The towns,
Oh,
they are great.
I've met Craig, and they're great people, but we
Yes.
meet face to face, so
Yes.
we can bring that together. So
Yeah.
I will make a new motion that we table a vote on the Dugout Riverside Road project for a period of at least 2 weeks, so we can hold a public meeting / hearing that would include members of the road commission, the public, the board, and perhaps the planning commission, to ask further questions and acquire answers to some of the issues that have been raised today. That's my motion.
Is there support?
That's me, Marcy.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Helmrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford,
No,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Osmond, no. Motion carries to table the meeting for 2 weeks for another meeting.
I will work with you all to get that scheduled.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Fry.
One thing, as the board members, if you can submit to me any detailed questions, hopefully by the end of the week, that way I can get them prepped for the county so that I can get them asked and answered for you all.
But Joe, I was thinking of if one of them could actually come to the meeting.
Yes,
I
I
can,
think that's
I can
essential.
ask for them to come as well. I can
Okay.
ask for them to come as well,
Right.
to make sure I have, questions so that they can be prepared to answer, any particular questions ahead of time.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to new business. The Tri-Community Recycling Committee report or update from Ms. Lewis.
Hey, hi, everybody. I promise I won't take very long, and because I know you got a lot of other stuff yet. So thank you so much for the time. As you know, I've tried on a regular basis to update every municipality on the progress of the recycling committee. And so this month, I'll start off with a report with a fun little bit of information that you probably already are aware. The battery buckets have arrived, and according to Dan DeFranco, the battery bucket is in the municipal office there at the township. So it's a 55-pound bucket, so not a gallon bucket, a 55-pound bucket. And there will be a couple of different ways that we will get the word out to residents in the 3 municipalities. The first of which I sent to you as an attachment just a little bit ago is a copy of the article that showed up today in the electronic copy of the commercial record, basically talking about the rollout and kind of instructions for folks on how to appropriately dispose of their batteries. We will follow up, of course, with posting that same article on the Facebook page. Let's see, and then courtesy of the municipalities, either on an e-blast and or a newsletter. Thank you in advance, John. And then lastly, we have the email addresses from folks who signed up and participated in the Household Hazardous Waste Day and the composting workshop. So we'll get a blast out to those folks because they're going to be the ones that are probably most likely interested in it. All 3 municipalities approved funding for 2 rounds of the battery bucket. So everyone's asked me how long do we think it'll take us to fill up a bucket. I have no idea, but I'll hazard a guess that it could be 6 months. So let's just say in 6 months the township has a full bucket. Someone just needs to let me know, and I'll come pick it up, and we'll put that lid on there, and we'll send it back to Battery Solutions, and they'll send us a new one. So hopefully we have, I think through the Household Hazardous Waste Day, we were able to deplete a number of folks, the amount of batteries they had stored everywhere and everywhere. So I'm hoping that, we aren't inundated with batteries that people have been storing up. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions you might have about the battery buckets.
Any questions from the board for Ms. Lewis?
All right. So really quickly, I'll just kind of wrap up a couple of things I had shared, and I've lost track now of what I've shared with everybody and what I've talked about with everybody. So after that Household Hazardous Waste Day, I put together kind of a summary report of both that event and then our recommendations. And what's great about this group is it's a group of very active volunteers, but I feel like we're getting to a critical point in order for us to move on and expand what we're doing. The three municipalities really need to come together and agree on either some grant help or funding help to hire a consultant to go after some grants. There are a lot of really good grants out there through Eagle right now that we're missing an opportunity on. So, until you tell me otherwise, what I will probably do is direct the committee to come up with kind of a funding alternative, if you will, to look at hiring a consultant to pursue grants on behalf of the three municipalities that are recycling, composting, and sustainability related. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Lewis? Okay, thank you,
Cool.
Garnet, for doing that. That was a good presentation. Thank you very
You bet.
much.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to Don Skipper request. I think that's pretty straightforward. We had a strange year this year, and Mr. Skipper is asking to extend to 2 installments to his payback from the, remind me what it was, the
For the utilities. for it.
utility.
Water connection, yeah. to the-
Yep.
Hello?
Does anybody
Hello?
have any questions for Mr. Fry? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Aldrich. I make a motion to approve the request for payment due date extension as requested.
Is there support?
This is Bigford, I'll support.
We have motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes,
Marcy,
Yes.
Osman, yes, motion carries. What do we have next? Next, we have the budget adoption for the 2022 budget. I'm going to let Mr. Fry just touch on the highlights of what we're doing today. I think we are looking to approve the budget that he has prepared and presented to us last month at our regular meeting. If you have some highlights you'd like to point out, Joe, you have the floor.
So as we went through the budget workshop, I did just let you know the proposed budget is and has been on the township website, as well as the budget workshops PowerPoint that has also been on the township's website for the public to review. I don't believe anyone stopped in the office to look at the book, but with this year's budget, we are looking at a general fund revenue, including an allocated millage of 1 mils and various miscellaneous revenues that will total $954,710, with the expenditures on the various general fund activities at being the same. The township will be focusing on a services and infrastructure approach for this fiscal year that will focus on starting work towards building renovations, trail maintenance, website upgrades for better transparency and access to online permitting for residents and contractors, and reviewing our current staffing. The administrative goals for myself for this fiscal year is to review our current process and procedures as well as our fee schedule, complete a capital improvement plan, start our first step towards our revisions to the utility agreements, and completing the chart of account revisions that are required by the state. And those are just some of the top projects for myself in this fiscal year. And we're looking to improve internal processes and continue good communications with the public and our customers.
Do any of the board members have questions for Mr. Fry? I'm not seeing any. So I would entertain a motion.
This is Marcy. With great appreciation for all of Joe's work, I'd like to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget as presented and resolution number 2021-03, a resolution to establish general appropriations for Saugatuck Township.
This is Helmut. I'm very happy to support that.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
and Osmond. Motion carries. Thank you, Joe, for all of your hard work on the budget. It's more appreciated than you know. Okay. Year-end budget amendments. Mr. Fry.
I will go over this for you all. So I took the template that Mr. Graham had, as I liked his template that he had presented to you last year for end year budget amendments. I spoke with Treasurer Helmerich and Deputy Clerk Dubinsky to make sure we went over this, as I'm still catching up on, you know, those weird nuances that happen a couple times a year. So we went through that, and attached in your packet, there's a paper copy of an Excel sheet that looks like this. It goes over the different amendments, plus or minuses in, if you're looking at the far right side, the third to the last column is the plus or minus to that particular line item. And then the second to the last column is new balance. The last column is the transfer. As I spoke with our accountant, just to make sure things are kosher, he did recommend that we just look at adjusting, you know, the fund balance usage and our expenditures to make sure that we do not go over expenditures. That is why I didn't really make any adjustments to our revenue lines. Also to note in here is the transfers I had mentioned at the budget hearing and a couple times previously. There will be a transfer from the sewer project fund to the sewer debt fund, as the debt payment was not collected within this fiscal year. So it's one of those items for accounting purposes you have to account with in one fiscal year versus another. So that will be transferred back in the next fiscal year, as is noted in the budget. One thing to note, that when you actually look at actuals, what I'm projecting is that we would only use about $20,000 in general fund balance, which is very good because the original budget had $70,000, $70,000 to $80,000 in fund balance usage. So that's actually really good. We tightened our belt this year. But it'll be take care of it. Is there any questions? Oh, I did also want to note that the Park Commission did put in a request to transfer if anything in that department line, if there was anything not used, to be transferred to the Park Capital Fund, but they will be using their entire park department budget, so there wouldn't be any monies to be transferred. So I did want to let you know that that was a formal request, but that wasn't able to be met at this time. So,
Any
questions?
board member questions for Mr. Fry? Or did you have another comment, Joe? Sorry.
Nope, I'm good.
Any questions for Mr. Fry on the transfer? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Aldrich. I recommend, or I motion to approve the requested June 2021 budget amendments as presented and authorize the requested interfund transfers.
Is there support?
This is Marcy, I'll support.
I have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond, yes. Helmut,
Yes.
Bickford,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you again, Joe. It was a great job on the budget stuff.
Thank you.
Next, we have the road millage #1 renewal. I'll let Mr. Fry again take the lead on this.
So as you have now approved next year's budget, within that budget, it does for the road fund plan for both road millages being renewed and brought in. And that kicked off in order to meet our deadlines for the state to get this millage renewal on the ballot for November. I did have Attorney Bolche with Dickinson and Wright review and prepare this. It is going to the original adopted millage that was adopted 5 years ago to renew the millage for an additional 5 years at the original 0.9967 mils. And that would be overriding the Headley. And that would bring in, I have on the screen, an estimated $360,000, $942.95. And so once adopted, I will be sending that, getting it certified and sent to the state so we can get to the county so we can get that on the ballot for November for renewal.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Fry from the board? Abby, did you want to say something? Okay. Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion.
This is Marcy. I move to approve the adoption of Resolution 2021-04, Road Maintenance Renewal Proposition as presented, to place a ballot proposal on the ballot for November 2nd, 2021, to renew the millage proposal that was previously approved by township electors to raise funds to pave, repair, construct, or reconstruct roads, bridges, or drainage structures.
Thank you. Is there support?
This is Bigford. I'll support.
I have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
and Osmond, yes, motion carries. Mike McWiggin resignation. Mike McWiggin was our township representative on the Cal Lake Board, and he did submit his resignation to Mr. Fry, and I think we need to formally accept that resignation.
This is Aldrich. I move to accept the resignation of Mike McWiggin from the KLSWA.
Is there support?
This is Marcy. I'll support, but we will miss him.
Yeah, I'll take a minute just to thank him for his service. He's probably not watching this, but he was a very knowledgeable person about water. So is there any more questions or comments before I call the roll?
Well, I just have a question. Is the plan to, how soon do we plan to post this and make it public that we're seeking a replacement?
I think that I plan to have our township manager appointed to this board, as was the previous township manager, the liaison for the township. Mr. Fry has a lot of experience in utilities, and I think he'd make a great representative, and it's not unprecedented because previously Aaron Sheridan was the representative. And right now, Cal Lake and the municipalities are working on some agreements. So it would be the perfect fit for Mr. Fry to be our representative. I don't know that it's on our agenda tonight. It might be on our next agenda, but I would like to make that appointment.
No, I think that's great. I'm just wondering if maybe we do a motion that covers both bases. So we don't have a gap of a month. Is that something we can do?
Mr. Fry, that really wasn't on our agenda, was it tonight? Or
It wasn't on the agenda, but I believe you can make it a part of your motion.
Right, that
Okay.
was my question. Let's do it together, because I think you're right. There's great precedence, and we know Mr. Fry has a lot of utilities background.
so, Ms. Aldridge, do you want to amend your motion to include making the appointment of Joe Fry to the Cal Lake Board?
I accept the resignation of Mike McGuigan from KLSWA and make a motion to appoint Joe Fry in that position to the KLSWA.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there support for that?
This is
Marcy?
Marcy. My support's the same. Yes.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion in support to accept the resignation of Mike Wigan and appoint Joe Fry as the representative from KLSWA. Is there any questions or further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Elmrick,
Yes,
Bigford,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, motion carries. Carry on, Joe. One more little thing for you to do.
All right.
Fire district budget approval. I thought I saw Chief Janik on the line. Does anybody have any questions for the chief before we proceed? It looks pretty much like a standard budget approval that we've accepted, but if any board members have questions for Mr. Janik, they could put.
is the chief still with us?
Yes.
Okay, chief, I've got a question. I'm just curious because I haven't heard anything for a while, if the unionization effort went through, or has it been completed, or just what the status of that is?
That's a good question, John. The union attorney and our fire district attorney are reviewing the documents now.
Okay,
So they have voted to go union. So it's a matter of a formality. There is no impact on your budget. I am not union. This was about more security than it was about money. So there is no impact for the township. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
no, it's tough. It's tough.
Okay, sorry. I'll try to speak clear. So, right now it's being reviewed by our attorney for the fire district.
Okay, and how many employees will that affect potentially?
5.
Okay,
5.
no, thank you, because as I said, I hadn't heard an update, and then I was going to ask about the impact on the budget, but you've already answered that, so I thank you for that.
No impact on your budget or any other city's budget.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Any more questions from the board for Chief Janik? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
This is Helmrich. I'm going to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021, - 2022 Saugatuck Township Fire District budget as presented tonight.
This is Aldrich. I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a support to approve the township budget. Is there any further discussion? The Saugatuck Fire District budget. No more discussion? Helmrich,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, motion carries. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Chief, for presenting that budget to us.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
we look forward to our continued good relationship.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next item is public meetings. And this has to do with the, whether or not we're going to continue with Zoom meetings or if we're going to go back to in-person meetings. I can tell you that Saugatuck City Council discussed this afternoon, and they will likely vote on Monday to extend the Zoom meetings through the end of July. And then if nothing changes, go back to in-person meetings.
Mrs. Aldrich. Boy, I'd love to get back to meetings in person. Even though I'm wearing my pajama bottoms, but I just miss seeing everybody in person. So I don't know how the rest of you feel, but.
Well, I agree. We had the budget workshop in person. We've been doing our special subcommittees of the Planning Commission in person, and it just changes the whole dynamic, and it's much easier to share information and be cohesive.
Abby, you have the floor.
Yeah, I also support meeting in person. I think that normally, I guess there's a possibility to have a very packed room with people, with members of the public, but a typical meeting, I think we could still adequately social distance. Our board has been vaccinated along with our manager, and especially during this time, we could also open all those doors and windows to create a little bit more ventilation. So I think it's a good decision to get back to meeting in person.
Yeah, Brenda, you have the floor.
I wanted to ask you what the reason was for the city to move it out to the end of July. Was it based on CDC or anything like that, or?
It was based on the desire. They didn't make a decision. They're not going to make that till Monday. But the discussion was they want to give us a little bit more time to get a hybrid installation, hardware and software in place so we could have hybrid meetings. And we have an intern now that can work on getting that done. So they wanted to see if they could get that done before they go back to the in-person meetings, but there was no other reason to extend it.
Is that something we can work on? Joe, it doesn't have to be before they start, but we did draw certain members that never came to a meeting. And I also do know people who still, because of their health conditions, they can't. They're still not going out. Is that something we could work on? I know I'm quite a fan of hybrid.
We can.
So with that, I'm sorry, Joe. I was wondering if the hybrid, would the board member have an option of zooming in, or would it just be the audience?
It would just be for the audience, because going forward, and I have, mind you, let me preface this, I do have to review the state updated Open Meetings Act law that was amended this past year. So I'd just, before I say anything for certain, I would want to just refer back to that before, answering that question for you, Stacy, as there are quite a few timelines in there, and it's been a minute since I read over it again. But for Brenda's question, we can look at moving forward with a hybrid. It will just take a little while as our current technology doesn't work very well with it. We did try it at the budget workshop, and it didn't work quite well, as you may recall. So it would require some allocation of funds to upgrade our systems. So that can be part of what we look at in the building renovations and just kind of fast track that. and make sure that it's mobile enough. So if, as we upgrade things in the future, we are not double dipping on things. So that can be a future thing.
I know we have a few special meetings coming up. Could we add this to one of those, or to give you time to look at options for a hybrid meeting, or does that need to be decided right now?
So what the board can do is go back into public meetings, and from this direction tonight, I can start looking at different options and reach out to some contractors that focus on this to upgrade our system. But I would put that out as a proposal, or I would contact different individuals, and I would then bring back what the estimated cost would be so the board can choose to do it or not.
So we
And I'm
could do
sure
it in
that
a
our
few
intern
weeks.
would,
Oops, I'm sorry.
sorry. I'm sure that our intern that will be working on this when she hits the floor running next week would be happy to share any information that she gets with Joe so he doesn't have to start from scratch. I think that would be really appropriate.
So we could vote on this at one of our special meetings down
We
the
could,
road.
we would just have to make sure it's properly noticed.
Well, maybe we should wait, do you think, or I don't know.
I don't see why we can't vote today, and with the direction to pursue that aggressively, with the Cindy's offer, especially to have the city intern give us some assistance, that'd be fabulous.
Would you like a motion?
I would. Pardon me?
Stacy did make a motion to move.
Oh, did I?
Oh, I don't remember that. That's good.
I didn't write it down, so.
All right, well, maybe I heard it wrong.
Oh, I think I was just asking if we should wait or do it.
Yeah, but you meant previous.
I wrote it down. Sorry.
Okay.
This is Marcy. I'd like to move that the township board meetings go back into public meetings located at the township hall.
I'll support.
Have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
This is Bigford. I don't know that we need to take action to just ask Manager Fry to get us some information. So I think that can be pretty informal, but maybe I'm wrong.
I kind of wonder too. Yeah.
Well, don't we have to move to make them public? Doesn't it take a motion? Is that what you're saying, Abby, is we shouldn't make a motion?
I think he gathers information on lots of different things, and we've caught, I'm okay either way, but I'm just saying, I don't know if we need to.
Well, it's already happened.
Why not err on the side of?
We have to vote on the motion on the table, so.
Right, that's just to meet in person, not to direct him to research.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
That was mentioned, but it was not in the motion, correct?
It's not yeah.
Okay.
What I can do for the board is I'll just go out and reach out to get some costs, and then I'll just bring it forward on an upcoming agenda at some point.
Okay.
In a couple of months.
The only,
Whoa.
is that you?
Sorry.
The only thing that I see missing from this motion, is there a date that you wanted to put on it, or just immediately effective?
I would say effective immediately, since we have some special meetings already on the schedule.
So you're amending,
Do I want me to restate it?
Marcy made the motion. Did you
All
want
right.
to?
Yes.
Go
Do you
ahead.
want me to restate it or just okay the amendment? Do you want me to just restate it?
Yeah, just restate it with a date.
Okay. I move that the township board meetings go back into public meetings located at the township hall, effective immediately. How's that?
Beautiful. I'll still support.
Okay, I have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes. Bigford,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Motion carries. We will be meeting in person from now forward.
Yay.
Hooray.
Ooh, I can see you guys more often.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I like that.
Okay. Personnel handbook policy amendment for dental insurance. This is an amendment to the policy handbook, as we now have approved the dental insurance for the employees. And I'll let Joe give you the highlights.
So this is just administrative cleaning up and updating things as keeping on top of our policies. So the township board did put in the dental insurance. This would be the amendments. It would be taking out the stipend for dental and implementing the language for the dental insurance just within the policy book. It would keep the stipend for vision though, but it would be lowered. Any questions?
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
This is Bigford. I'll move to approve the amendments to the Township Personnel Policy Handbook as presented.
Is there support?
This is Marcy, I'll support.
Have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
I do want to note for everyone at the last board meeting, you guys did vote on verifying with Delta Dental being for the other dentist, and it was, and we got that signed and moved forward. So just an FYI.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'll call the roll. Bigford?
Yes?
Marcy?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes. Motion carries. Old Alec and Blue Star Highway Road Study. That's a complicated issue. So I'll let Joe go over the highlights of that.
Well, the other day, I was informed by Trustee Aldrich about the accident that had occurred at Old Allegan Road in Blue Star. I believe it was last Sunday. And the fire chief also sent some information out as well that I received that over the last 20 years, there has been at least an accident a year at that corner. So with that, I did call the road commission about how they go about addressing this, and they did request that the township adopt a resolution that would kick off the process for a road study to focus on looking at a traffic light. So I did put together this resolution that in essence requests that the road commission conduct a traffic study at the corner of Old Allegan and Blue Star to determine the need for a traffic light, and request that a light be placed at that corner at the conclusion of the study. This would allow for us to formally ask of that. Going forward, if this is passed, I would then come back if there's any funding required from us to inform you on approving that or not. But this is just the formal request portion of it. So just to let you all know. I don't know if there's any other comments from Trustee Aldrich or not.
There was it kind of shook up the fire department, according to Chief Janik the other day with that accident. And there was a lot of Facebook chatter about it, and people are really upset. And I know our hands are a little tied because it's a county road, but anything we can do to try to get a traffic light or some type of safety up there, I know would help the entire Blue Star corridor. So this is the first step. Hopefully we can do something, but.
Marcy, you have the floor.
Thank you. I wanted to note, and I don't think it's because of the freeway repairs, because they're really not involved. I mean, there's certain ways you can go without having to get on Blue Star Highway, but our edge of it, our part, it's been horrible already. And I don't know if that's just people wanting to get out and enjoy the warmth. It's been really hard to turn or cross. And I've been taking Greg's advice from years ago to use North Street. But one thing I'm worried about is, you know, the whole anger thing, road rage thing has just escalated because of COVID and maybe some other issues. And I also have that concern because I'm at that every day, at least once a day. I've seen some episodes that could have ended poorly. So I just wanted to say that, and I just really hope they'll consider a stoplight. I see Scott Sullivan's on the line, and Scott and I one day passed there. We had over a month in the winter where even just the hanging yellow light wasn't working. And because it was the two of us and we just happened to be going to a meeting, it was repaired the next day, but several people called and couldn't get it repaired. So the visibility is poor to begin with, but add the traffic, and I think this is going to be permanent. I don't know. I could be wrong, but anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's all I got.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or discussion? I see we have Chief Janik still on the line. Chief, would you like to make a comment about that intersection?
I'm grateful that the township will investigate this. It's been a very talked about subject as far as intersections go. We have a number of busy intersections. For some reason, this one is the most precarious, and there should be no reason. When you compare it to 64th and Blue Star, it's a very busy intersection. This one is not so much, but I think people misjudge the traffic accelerating going northbound. They forget about the turn lane. So at least your effort is to be applauded. Let's try to do something. I am not a traffic engineer, management expert. I can share this with you. The trauma I've seen in the accidents there will be with me for the rest of my life. I've seen little kids, I've seen parents traumatized by that intersection. And I am not going to stop. I'm going to try to get something done. So when I approached the township manager, Stacy, I had a great reception of interest, and I'm thankful for that interest.
Greg, is that okay, Madam Chair? Do you remember the last time we tried to do this? And I don't think I was on the board yet, but I may have been. They said, well, we hadn't had enough accidents. So I'm hoping that you can make them more aware of the trauma of the accidents and that. I mean, I don't know if you would have a part in this, but I really think you should.
Yes, I'm happy to participate to the extent possible. I have my own feelings on this from a public safety expert. And I just think that, so Bill Wester started this probably 15 years ago. This is not the first time we've asked. So what kind of a community, what kind of a message do we send? We are community risk reduction specialists. I can't accept we haven't had enough deaths there. I'm not doing it. We are a community that wants to prevent. We want a quality of life to improve. So we need to do something about this, whatever we can do. And the motion certainly is going to give you the tools to go that much further.
Yeah, at least I think, thank you, Greg. At least it shows that we're making an effort to do it. And I hope we can get support from the county. I'm not convinced that they're going to do that, but the road there is wide enough to throw people's judgment off when they're turning onto or across traffic, to support some kind of traffic calming device. And a stoplight would do a lot to break up the traffic when you're coming off Lake Street from the city. It would slow the traffic down that comes roaring around that curve downhill where you can't see. So I think we have to at least make this effort. Having said that, I would entertain a motion.
This is Aldrich. Oh, can I do that if I requested it?
Yes,
Okay, I recommend or to adopt the resolution number 2021-05 as presented.
is there support?
Marcy, I'll support. Oh,
Any additional comment? If not, I'll call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
and Osmond, yes. Motion carries with great gusto. Thanks for putting that together, Joe.
You're welcome.
What is next? COVID year-end staff reimbursement. This one I'll let Joe, or if he wants to defer to John, give us the update.
So over the last, it's like 6 months now, I've been reviewing how we do things in the township. One of the items that was brought to my attention was as the township worked from home, staff members were not compensated for office equipment in use. As I don't know what was going on at that time, but because of that, I would suggest that a reimbursement for full-time staff persons who did work from home receive, I gave a range between $5,000 to $1,000 for full staff members. I would recommend at the higher amount at $1,000 to compensate for that utilization of personal funds and personal equipment, not funds. Well, I guess, and funds for using their cell phone and their own home internet to conduct township business during this pandemic. I do want to note, just for clarification, that does not include the township manager. It's just for 2 staff persons in the office. So that is why it's before you today.
Any questions for Joe? Marcy?
Joe, why does it not include the manager?
Well, I chose to not include myself as I wasn't here for the full year, and I just didn't think that was right.
Okay.
Also, the manager gets compensations for some of these items that staff don't.
Okay.
Would someone like to make a motion, please?
This is Bigford. I move to authorize the one-time payment of $1,000 for reimbursement per full-time staff persons for COVID-19 costs from working at home.
This is Aldrich. I'll support.
Okay, I have a motion and support. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none. Bigford,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
and Osmond, yes. Motion carries.
And I will get that taken care of. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Joe. Next, we have the county ORV notice. The county's having a public hearing on the ORV ordinance, which does not allow for the opt-out of townships or cities, of municipalities that want to opt out. I think it's only for townships, but I'm not 100% sure. But we don't have any requests from our public to include this in an ordinance. And we have talked about it previously, and this would allow Joe to go forward and attend the public hearing and submit this letter to the board, similar to other townships like Lake Town. I don't know which other ones, but. So if somebody have any questions for Joe, or Joe, do you want to make a comment?
I did receive an email. That's what prompted this from some other townships in receiving the notice as well. And remembering the township board did vote 5-0 not to adopt an ORV ordinance previously this spring. So this is a letter, some of the language was sent by the Lake Town manager on behalf of his board. So I did include it as I thought it would be relevant for a draft if the township board did choose to move forward with this. And it is on the screen and in your packet. So if it is approved, I will send it off and I will then attend the public hearing tomorrow for the county to let it be known what the township board says.
Any questions for Joe about the ORV? Abby?
Yeah, really quickly. I don't think it is appropriate for our township, and we've discussed that previously, but I do have a question, and I apologize if this has been addressed, but if we opt out, does that prohibit the county from doing their kind of blanket county-wide ordinance with the exception of these municipalities that opt out?
So what is being proposed as, which was initially kicked off by Lake Town, is that there would be a section included as is cited, which is section 301, which would allow for, the townships that don't want to be included to be able to be opted out. So it would go forward and you could in other townships, but it just be not for us. Does that answer your question, Abby?
Yes, it does. And I see that it is included. I just didn't interpret it quite that way. So thank you for clearing that up.
It's okay. You're welcome.
If there's any other questions from the board, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you.
This is Aldrich. I recommend that we approve the letter as presented and send to the county commissioners.
Is there support?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is Marcy. I'll support. I don't know what happened.
I have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to say, I can't even imagine in a township like ours where we don't, if it was downtown, I'd say, yeah, I want to take my golf cart. But I can't even imagine what Blue Star Highway would be like. Anyway.
Okay. Is there any other comments or discussion? I'll call the roll. Aldrich?
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
Osmond? Yes. Bigford?
Yes.
Helmrich?
Yes.
Motion carries. Reports. I think, John, you're up.
Thank you. The moment we've all been waiting for. Here's my treasurer's report for June 9th, 2021, which is to give you an update of where we were at the end of May, beginning of June. We are now in our last and final month of this fiscal year. So the general fund bank balance. Okay. This isn't my slide, so I'm going to read from my slide because it seems to be a little bit out of whack here. All right, the general fund's bank balance as of June 3rd stood at $2.18 million. An additional $400,000, oh, maybe it's okay, I'm sorry. An additional $400,000 from the general fund was invested in May in new investment products, which I'll talk about in a second. Total revenue year to date across all funds is 8% ahead of budget. Year to date expenses across all funds are 23% below budget, which is a pretty remarkable number. In the general fund only, revenue is 6.6% ahead of budget and expenses are 5.3% below budget. There continue to be no departmental overages that need addressing. Significant revenue lines ahead of budget include all construction and rental permits, In fact, it's an average of 50% higher in each category. There's about 6 that fall into this category. And also our annual cable TV franchise fees have gone up and we're ahead of budget. So the fiscal state of the township remains excellent and even stronger than it was a month ago. And let's see where we get for the end of the year next month. On the investment side, as I've just mentioned, we purchased 2 new bonds last month. We got another federal one with the Federal Home Loan Bank. And we bought our first municipal one in Michigan with Buchanan Schools. So current total investments are now at $1,800,000, $87.27. And this is an increase of 135% from the total we had invested at the end of December. So we are fulfilling our promise to make us richer in the investment categories. 2021 tax year begins on July 1st, a few weeks away. So my next line, I wrote this last week. I said, the assessor and I will be creating a new tax database and preparing tax bills for delivery on July 1 beginning next week. I just want to amend that to this week. We've already started that. So that's my report. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Helmrich.
You're welcome.
And now we have committee reports. Who's first here?
Is that me?
Switch it around.
Road commission? Is that correct?
Yes, go ahead.
So
Brenda, you have the floor.
I think we've talked a lot about that tonight. I don't know if Joe had anything to add? Any even more recent news?
No, I am getting the PDF copy for this upcoming, the final like cleaner version that was presented before, and that will eventually be ending up on the township website so that residents can see what projects are coming down the pipeline ahead of time. And so if they do have comments, they can give us comments over time so that the road committee can review them and then possibly make amendments to the board. So just FYI.
Okay, thank you. Fire board, what you got for us, Stacy?
Well, we discussed the budget and we had an update from the Household Hazardous Waste Recycling Committee and had an update from Human Resources Wage Study and went over the stats and things like usual, but mostly the budget this month we talked about.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Next we have Planning Commission. Mr. John, you're up again.
Okay, at least this time I had a break. So Planning Commission met on Monday, May 24th at the Township Hall. This meeting was dedicated solely to Manager Fry giving instructions and an overview on how to use the team's software, which will work to assist the 4 new special committees of the Planning Commission. Just to remind you, these 4 special committees are Rural Character and Conservation. Daniel DeFranco is chair. They're having their first meeting tomorrow. Attainable Housing, Denise Webster is chairing. I think their meeting is set for next week. Economic Development, of which I chair, we had our first meeting last week. And Blue Star Safety, chaired by Mr. Eiley. I'm not sure when they're meeting, but I'm sure it's scheduled.
We had a meeting outside of Eiley's the other day, so.
Oh.
So we're working on it. Yeah.
All right. I didn't see that one posted, but I'm sure you're doing
Oh, okay.
great work.
Oh, we had to post it. Okay.
All right. So anyway, public meetings for all 4 of these are in the works or have already occurred. The Planning Commission will have its next meeting on Monday, June 28th of this month. Zoning Administrator Wells, before she went on vacation, told me at this point she had no specific agenda items for action, but we decided to meet so with the 4 special committees at minimum can give an update to everyone and perhaps some, you never know, sometimes agenda items show up at the last minute. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Parks Commission, Joe or?
So I just want to comment at the Park Commission. The Park Commission is working on updating its bylaws that were from 1974. We are going to be getting some information from our attorney just to make sure to direct some things if they had some legal questions on the various laws and how that impacts. So those will be sent out. And the Park Commission is also looking at updating with a similar to what Griffin went through with you guys before on getting policies and procedures written down. We're working on the draft with that. Also, the last couple weekends I've been working on the dog donation box to get it fixed. Finally got it put in and fixed and got the new keys and everything ready for it. So I'm super excited about that in the parks. And their checklist will be going out soon. I've been working with Mr. Commissioner Diaz on getting that sent out so that they can review their parks utilizing Teams. They were going to utilize Google, but they were having some issues on it. Not everyone uses Google. So one thing, as the township has instituted township-wide emails for our boards and commissions, Teams is a tool that they can now use for them. So that is now available for them. For the trail embankment near the fire district, that trail is falling in. I did ask Engineer Bird to start getting information for an RFP, as that is within this upcoming year's budget to get fixed for safety reasons. So hopefully we can get that out and get that scheduled, not within this calendar year, but within the next calendar year, and still be within this fiscal year. So
Thank you.
I have one quick thing to add.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Yeah, hi. I'm sure that by now you know Erica has resigned from the Parks Commission. So Erica Barman, she had some personal issues. I believe she sent a letter to the board.
No, I didn't get that yet to send off.
She came in person, but Mr. Fry asked her to do a letter that I don't think's been received yet. But she
Okay.
did notify us.
Okay. Well, she has resigned. We will talk about at our next meeting a replacement. Also, she's been on the board for 22 years. I didn't realize it had been that long before I joined. So at our next meeting, we will also talk about something special that we can do for her, that something to remember her service. The one other issue that Joe forgot, we're going to try and move that 911 gate that blocks the back part of the dog park. And there's been a lot of confusion about the key and who has it and where it is and how we can get through there, because it's a big impediment to us getting to the rear part of the wooded area of the dog park. That's all I have.
Just to update you, Jim, since you're here and also the board on the gate, I did get a call back from the county dispatch, central dispatch at their tower, and they work with the state. So the state had changed the lock on it. They will be giving us a key to that lock. And then I did let them know that the Park Commission was wanting to look at moving the gate, and they are okay with that and would just like more information.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both. Cal Lake, we probably don't have a report from Mike as he's resigned. Emergency services, Tony, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure hearing all your voices tonight. Yes, we haven't heard from you for a little while, and that's good news. Everything seems to be going well with the life ambulance service. But we'll talk about what we have in front of us now. Our regular quarterly meeting is tomorrow night, but I had the information forwarded to me yesterday, so I have some information for us. This report includes the 6 municipalities that we're dealing with, and it'll be for March, April, and May of 2021. Life responded to 272 calls in the 6 entities and had 202 transports. response, which is a good conversion rate of 74%. And what I have here, they're pleased with that. It looks good for them. Response times have been very good for everybody. Average response times about 7 minutes and 30 seconds for our priority ones. And everything is a little bit more when you get down to priority 2 and priority 3, but they've been doing very well on response times. They also did some wheelchair transports in and around the area. And they're just happy with what they have, and response times are good. Talk to different people in the other service areas, and they're all happy with the service. And our south half of Saugatuck Township, we've had 30 calls in the last 3 months. We had 15 priority 1s, we had 5 priority 2s, and 10 priority 3s. And response times again are doing very well. There's not really much I can give you other than that for that stuff, but again, it's just good. The fire chief in Fenville does have a concern about some coverage, and we'll be discussing that tomorrow night, and we'll update you on what those issues are when the time comes, but it shouldn't be no big deal. He did submit a letter to the board, and like I say, we'll just discuss that tomorrow night. I talked to the different townships, like I say, and everybody's happy. Reading the minutes from the last meeting that they had in March, I come to find out that I am been nominated as the new chairperson for the Fenville Area Ambulance Service Board. Upon if I accept that come tomorrow night, so I'll be the new chairperson. Don Nagel, who has been in that position for many years, has asked to resign from that position, but still stay on the board and be part of Clyde Township yet. Overall, things are good. That's why you haven't heard from me. And if you have any questions about the service, let me, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Skipbaugh?
I just have a comment. I want to congratulate Tony on becoming the new chair. I mean, I mean that, and I think it's great. I think it's good for Saugatuck Township. I believe we're the largest population-wise township in the ESC, and not only do you deserve it, I know you're going to do a great job. So thank you in advance.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Abby?
Just want to support what John said, and I hope you accept the nomination, Mr. Tony, and your experience and your passion for this would make you an incredible leader for that group.
I would have to say I will. Yes.
Okay, good.
It'd be crazy not to.
Brenda, did you have a comment? Okay.
No, I was just clapping.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Brenda, for clapping.
Thank you.
Interurban Board, we have a written report, and I'm glad to see that the free parking shuttle will continue and the last Saturday in June. Recycle Committee, we did have a report from Garnet earlier on. I think they're doing amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
why there wasn't one from our reps tonight included.
our one from what?
So that's why there wasn't a report tonight, because Garnet was going to be on.
Yep. Okay, moving on to the all-important managers report.
Just to let everybody know, the Blue Star engineering agreements have been started and engineering has begun. So things are moving in that front, so I'm excited about that. As John mentioned, PC committees have started. I believe housing is the week of the 21st. It's the next one. There is one tomorrow night for rural culture and conservation. Been working to meet our neighbors. I had lunch with Mr. Meshkin up in Lake Town. We will be working together with him on these utilities as well. I have gotten a quote from the rebranding agency that the CVB did, and we'll be bringing that forward to you to kick off our website redevelopment. I've heard good things about their work from their references from the CVB and also Spring Lake who use them. Couple other things, both cities have accepted us into the Harbor Authority, so we will be moving forward those various items to finalize that, and then the board will be required to make appointments. So we will have to be putting that out for people to make appointments to it. I did want to know that I did put out the RFP for the building official. I only got 2. And it was very hard to compare those. In the meantime, I am looking at putting in an interim position for the building to allow us more time to see what options and if we want to change how things operate within the township hall over this upcoming year. So that's what I will be looking at. The building maintenance and risk mitigation, we are currently working on that, as well as some other things. I have a volunteer who is working with us to get some community service hours. So we'll be working on that, as well as some other things. Some of the other things is at the cemetery, we have those lovely metal flower pots, and we'll begin those repainted. So make sure that those families' graves, when they borrow the flower pots, look nice in our cemeteries. The ZBA and PC positions have been posted, but I was talking to John today, and we will be reposting those just to bring it fresh to everyone's mind. The deadline to apply for the public is July 2nd. A couple other things just to note. As Mr. Searing mentioned, Erica Barman did state in the office that she would be resigning, and I'm waiting for a letter for that to be official. There is a manager conference in July the 20th to the 23rd, and I am planning on attending that. That will be in Rochester and Auburn. I am looking forward to getting back to manager conferences to meet with colleagues to see what's going on in our state and in the field, so that I can continue to serve the township in the best possible manner. And also just a note, in your emails, you should have received a copy of the team's invite to the township board team group. This was kind of a great idea that I latched onto from trustee Marcy, and I really liked it. So within this teams, it will have the last 2 years at the moment packet, so that if the board wants to review them at home, because you guys don't have access to our S drive, you can access those at home, as well as various plans the township has. So the park and recreation plan, the roads plan, as well as various policies that we have, and other information that you request to be in there. That way, from home, you can, if you have a question that you're itching to ask, or just wanting to read something to help you fall asleep at night, you can do so. So that is all I have for tonight. Any questions or concerns that need to be brought to my attention?
Where's my-
Marcy?
I don't have a question or a concern. I just wanted to thank you for doing that. I don't have a lot of space, and I've been cleaning out paper. And then when I do that, I realize, there's certain things I do want to access, especially the packets.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. That was a great report. You got a lot done. Open board report. We will start with Marcy.
I don't really have anything tonight, so thank you.
Helmrich?
Yes, I've just got 2 things. One is just a reminder to people that next Monday, the 14th, new standard, which will be the first retail marijuana business to open in Saugatuck Township. He's kind of hosting a tour to see the facility before parts of it go private and it becomes open to the public. And I think I'm expecting about 13 members of the Planning Commission board to participate in that. Also, I had alerted you that Christian Neighbors had asked the township to participate. They're doing a community leaders poverty roundtable meeting. And I'm happy to report that both Denise Webster and Denise Shepley, who serve on our planning commission, have agreed to attend to represent us. And then I found out that Becky Israels is going in her capacity as a medical professional. So we'll be well represented, and I'm glad we can participate in that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Bigford.
No, I don't have any further comments today.
And Aldrich. Okay, Osmond, I have 2 comments. One is that the state is once again considering removing regulation from local municipalities on short-term rentals. So if you would contact your representatives, I would appreciate it. If you need information on how to do that, or you want the reports from MML, just ask me and I will send you that information. And they're doing the same thing with sand mining, removing local control from sand mining. And before they come to a vote, it's good that they hear from our community leaders and what our feelings are about that local control erosion. If you want the copy of the contacts, let me know and I will share that with you. And any of our citizens as well, if they want contact information, I would be happy to share that with them as well.
And that's good. That's a great point. Thank you. And then everyone should be getting the MTA alerts with sample letters and calls to action. And I know some of us wrote on the mining issue, which did pass the Senate and is now going to the House. And short term is equally important.
Mm-hmm.
State legislatures doesn't seem to believe in local control anymore. And that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's been eroding. So that is the end, I think. I think I got everybody for open board comments. Mm-hmm. And we will now go to the part of the meeting where we open it back up for public comments. Are there any members of the public here that would like to speak? If you could raise your hand or unmute yourself.
John Doerr here. You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You have the floor, John.
All right, thank you. I know these meetings can run a long time, as tonight did, and I just want to say I really appreciate the board taking the time that it did on Riverside. I know it extended the meeting, but I do appreciate your willingness to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may speak. I reckon you have the floor, Greg.
I just wanted to thank the Township Board for supporting our firefighters and approving our budget. It means so much to us. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Yes, I have a comment.
Yes, Scott, you have the floor.
Hi, okay. Let me see if this will work or not, but you all haven't heard from Tess McEnroe, correct? Okay, she is away out in a remote area, but I'm going to play her comment for the board.
Hi, everybody in Saugatuck. My name is Tess McEnroe, and I'm coming to you from the Grand Canyon where I work. So anyway, I wanted to make a public comment before I leave on a river trip for a few weeks, but I'm a 5th generation Saugatuck woman. My great-great-grandfather, Harvey House, came to Saugatuck in the 1860s and settled here and built our farmhouse that we still have today. 5 generations later, through so much hard work, blood, sweat, tears, babies, deaths, apples, cherries, a farm. This land is my roots, it's my blood, and I feel the need to speak up for it. So thank you for listening. My father put our property into the Land Conservancy of Western Michigan about 8 years ago or so, and it's not protected forever, which is a beautiful thing. And realize that things change and life goes on, but I'm really imploring you to listen to the voices of our community, of our neighbors, of myself and my family. Putting a road in would take down hundreds of trees that have been there forever. It would impact the pond that's in the back of our property. The runoff from pavement would drain into that and then into the river, which our property also backs up into. I understand that the road has to go in, but Jason Edwards, I'm speaking directly to you right now. I am asking you with all my heart to listen to these people, to listen to me, and please consider what they're saying. Please consider thinking about land, the environment, and not just what's best for a road or neighbors or money and power. It's important. If all you have to do is consider moving the road and the cul-de-sac slightly over, you don't need to cut down all those trees. There are other options. And even if you're frustrated by this process, I'm asking you to really think about it. It matters to us. It matters to people here. It matters to every bird and tree in that ecosystem. And please just, think about the big picture of what we want our grandchildren to have. We want wild land. We want the lake to be there. We want this place to stay pristine and beautiful. And you can do both. You can put in a road, but you can do it the right way. So Jason and the board of Saugatuck, please consider this. Thank you for your time, and I'll follow up soon.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. I realize that's a little repetitive, but I promised Tess that I would try to get her comments heard. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment, raise your hand or unmute yourself. Richard Kirk, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. And I'm not a resident of Saugatuck Township. I think I've said it at a couple of these public meetings. I live up in Muskegon, but as a friend of a family that does live in the township and in Saugatuck Town, I've been visiting the area for about 45 years now. And now that I live in Michigan, I'm down there about once a week. And it concerns me in seeing what's going on in the community and what you've been talking about tonight and building roads and digging ponds and this and that, that a lot of these projects and the way they're going about are destroying the very qualities that make Saugatuck Township, Saugatuck, Douglas, make them such an attractive place to come and live, to come and work, to come and visit and spend visitor money, residential money. And so I'd like the board and the community in general to keep that in mind. Do not be in such a rush to accommodate developers and investors, all necessary and all which have their interest there, but don't be in such a rush to accommodate them that you are destroying the very thing that makes Saugatuck attractive. And that's the trees and the river and the wildlife and all of that. Don't be so quick to tear it down. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate that you let me speak at these.
Thank you, Richard Kirk. Is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment? Now's your chance. Either raise your hand or unmute yourself. Hearing none, last chance. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Aldrich. I move to adjourn the June 9th meeting of Saugatuck Township Board.
Okay, is there support, please?
This is Marcy, I'll support.
Have motion and support to adjourn. Any further discussion? Aldrich,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes. Meeting adjourned at 8:40 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Ciao.